discuss what's going on with Republican Congressman Peter King of New York. He's a key member of the House Homeland Security as well as the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, thanks very much for joining us. This Sunni awakening, the U.S. goes in there with its friends into Iraq. They tell these Iraqi Sunnis, rise up, go after ISIS, who are also Sunni. But what happens? They don't get enough support, and these Sunnis who the U.S. is trying to support, these Sunnis are slaughtered by ISIS. What's going on here?
Well, I think this shows a basic flaw in the Obama policy, in that by ruling out ground troops, by saying that up front, that has allowed ISIS to go forward, knowing that we're not going to have troops to help on the ground. The fact also that we have, I think, been reluctant to give weapons to those who are willing to fight for us, fight with us, has, again, been a serious defect. And going back to the original proposition of when we pulled out of Iraq so soon, we lost our influence over the Iraqi army. And that's why, even though the Iraqi army is there in Baghdad, it seems incapable of providing assistance in Al-Anbar province. So this is, again, a culmination. First, it's a culmination of the failures of the Obama policy in pulling out. And then secondly, I think it's an immediate example of a failure of the president's policy by not having any boots on the ground, and by ISIS knowing we're not going to have any boots on the ground. It's really terrible for those troops. We asked them to rise up, and now we're not coming to their assistance.
It sort of reminds me, I've seen this movie before, after the first Gulf War back in 1991. The U.S. went in and liberated Kuwait. They told Saddam Hussein, you know what, you're in trouble. He stayed in power, but they encouraged the Shiites, the Iraqi Shiites in the south, to rise up, the Kurds in the north to rise up. The U.S. wasn't going in to Iraq. They liberated Kuwait, and so many of those Iraqi Shiites were slaughtered by Saddam Hussein's forces. So we've sort of seen this film before, and it's an awful situation. You tell the Iraqi Sunnis this time, go ahead and rise up, but you don't give them the support they need, and ISIS goes ahead and slaughters them, kills them, rapes their women, and all the savagery that we see going on. Let's talk about the Khorasan group, because a lot of U.S. officials say this al-Qaeda affiliate or split-off group, they represent an imminent threat to the U.S. homeland right now, do they?
Yes. I've known about the Khorasan group, I guess, since last spring. It was intentionally kept secret because we didn't want them to know that we were aware of them. And basically, Khorasan group is a segment of Al-Qaeda. It's not even a splinter group. It's a hardcore of Al-Qaeda, which moved to Syria because they believe they have a sanctuary there. And they are extremely vicious, extremely capable, and they are intent on attacking the United States.
So it looks like those 47 Tomahawk cruise missiles that were launched against them to try to take out their leadership a few weeks ago didn't do much, because their leadership is still very much alive and well, right?
I would give it again, I don't know all the details. That really hasn't come out. Having said that, accepting everything you're saying as being true, I would say what it does show is I think we did disrupt the Khorasan group. So to that extent, it was successful. To me, it would have been very lucky if we could have gotten everybody on that first night. If you have a group that's in place, and they're very smart, very sophisticated, I can't believe they would allow themselves to be so vulnerable where they could be all taken out in one night. Even though we didn't telegraph the attack, they had to be, they assume all contingencies. So I would doubt if they were all in that one location anyway, and that they didn't have contingency plans. So again, this is another example of why this is going to be a long, hard war, and why the president claimed victory far too soon as far as Iraq was concerned.
Yeah, when you launch 47 Tomahawk cruise missiles, that's not just one site. They're going after various sites, and it looks like a lot of that leadership remains alive right now, as Barbara Starr.
Well, if I'm saying one site, I would think.
Go ahead.
Yeah. What I was going to say is that whether it's one site or two sites or three sites, they would have enough deployment that the odds will be against us getting them all in one night. That's the point I was trying to make. That these guys are horrible killers. They're professionals, and I just don't believe they would have left themselves vulnerable where in one night of attacks they could be taken out.
How much concern is there about the potential sophistication of ISIS technology? Because, as you know, the Yemen master bomb maker, Ibrahim al-Asiri, he's thought to be sharing techniques with Khorasan, for example.
Yeah, if that is true, and I assume it is, this shows again how deadly they are, because that would enable them to evade airport detection. Al-Asiri is probably the most talented bomb maker in the world for the terrorists. And the fact that he is willing to join forces with the Khorasan group, if he is, that really, again, it's very ominous. And it shows why it was wrong for us to let our guard down against these groups. And this is not going to be something we can do in one night or 1 week. It's going to take a lot of effort and intelligence on the ground. There's no substitute for intelligence on the ground. Unfortunately, we've had very little of it in that part of the world.
I want you to stand by, Congressman. There's much more to discuss, sure, including that announcement earlier in the week that nearly 10,000 federal buildings here in Washington and around the country are about to go on a higher state of security, a higher state of alert. What's going on here? There's new information coming in.